All right, guys. So in the interest of keeping time frame, I really appreciate you taking time at lunch to come through, and so I just wanted to spend just 1 or 2 minutes saying thank you for all of you coming here, and just and to my team for putting this together. I've really sort of let them work with Veeam and work out what's important and what's going through. And Jason will be up a little bit later, one of our clients who's actually able to talk through a disaster and coming back. So thanks very much, Jace, for coming up. For those of you who I haven't met, I think it's pretty well the majority. I'm Damo. ONGC is a company that I founded in 2003. I'm a born and bred Gold Coaster, passionate and proud. And no place I'd rather live in. On the day that we wanted it to, they turned on the weather pretty hot. So it's a bit warmer than I expected. So hopefully we can bear through, and we'll leave the doors open, and it should sort of cool down with no one going through. So the one thing that I wanted to just sort of tell everyone about is just a little bit about how we've changed as an organisation. Spending 1 or 2 minutes. We grew up when we started being just the IT company, and we call it IT plumbing. Where something's broke, come fix it. Broke, come fix it. And it was a shit job. It really was, and that's why we call it plumbing from that point, because it's not proactive. People hate spending money on it, and you're not actually doing anything to benefit anyone. And for a long time, that's what we did, because that's all the sort of technology allowed, and we couldn't actually do anything that achieved great results for people. But with the advent of cloud and the technologies that are coming out, we're actually able to change our conversation with people a great way, and it's more these days about digital transformation. And in a nutshell, that comes down to the easiest way to put it. Guaranteed nearly everyone in the room would have bought something worth $300 or more in the last 6 months. All right, so it's a pretty safe bet that everyone's done that. And the chances are, the first thing that you would have done is looked at your phone or your tablet or your PC. Never would have gone to the local market. You wouldn't have gone to the yellow pages. What's that? So everything's digital. And so it's about transforming your business digitally to respond to what the market's doing. And it's part of what we've sort of said down here, that how we do business today is different from yesterday, and it'll change again tomorrow. Because the biggest thing is coming through with it, by 2025, Gen Ys and Millennials will be the bulk of the workforce. So we've got to actually be in shape and ready to do that. So not only will be the bulk of the workforce, they'll be the bulk of the spending, that goes through. So how you work with your clients has got to change. It's got to go through and be different. And so that's where we've really changed our business to try and work through. So we still do the IT plumbing, but we really are trying to use a lot more to be proactive and moving people through technology to be able to get more advances. And today they're going to go through and show you, the importance of being online, being available, and getting the most out of it. Little bits of housekeeping really quickly. If there's a fire, I'm going to go straight out the back door. The exits, you've sort of come through there. Toilets there. If there's a mad rush for the toilets, there's also another one upstairs if need be, but you can see the plumbing. All right, so it's part of our, we're not trying to be, what's the word, pretentious. We are who we are, but we're proud of what we've become. So, and that's a part of having people here, is to sort of say, this is what we do, this is where the guys work, the people that you deal with every day. So, reason I've been running around, just a little shameless plug, is we got one of these. I've just come from the awards ceremony. This is the Gold Coast Business Excellence Awards. So I've had to rush from there this morning to come through and back here. So, and the final of a shameless plug, which goes to the guys, as a team we were awarded, and most of you would have known because we're not sort of backward in coming forward, is we were awarded Microsoft's Cloud Partner of the Year in Australia. So that's really sort of enforcing where we're going through from that whole digital transformation journey. So our one challenge, coming at it today, hopefully there'll be some other questions and that type of thing, but we're trying to challenge every business to say, what can we do with technology to get more out of it? So as it stands, thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Very much appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules. We know it is very hard to get out in the middle of the day half the time, because I'm sure most people in here, like me, don't have lunch breaks very often. But hopefully it'll be a good excuse to give you some useful information for each and every of your businesses, and we've really tried to make this as least technical as possible. We want you to be able to relate this to your business and how, start thinking about some areas that you should really be thinking about as well, because some of the things that we're talking about today are very much overlooked. So ideally this whole event has been put together around business continuity, and the idea of business continuity, I think, if you ask 4 or 5 different people in the room, everyone will have a different explanation of what, or understanding of what business continuity would be. I had a quick look at the definition online, and it states that business continuity is defined as the capability of the organisation to continue to deliver products or services at an acceptable predefined level following a disruptive event or incident. So ideally, that could be a multitude of things. That could be fire, flood, theft, or some other type of natural disaster. But it also comes around to change management areas as well. So say, for instance, you implement a new system within your business, there's obviously an element of business continuity that needs to be considered when implementing that new process or package or whatever you're doing to make sure that you can still provide those deliverables to your customers. Ideally, we refer to this as the always on business. Now, what we want to make sure is each and every business understands their business continuity plan or contingency plan. And it's a conversation that we're having more often than not with existing and new customers, because again, I guess we would have a conversation about backup 5 or 6 years ago, or even 12 months ago for many. But backup, we need to think about, is that enough? Is that enough to make sure that your business is going to continue to operate? Work's no longer something that it's no longer somewhere you go, it's something that you do. So more like having the ability to pick up your phone and make a phone call on demand. Mobile phones these days probably use 20% to actually make phone calls. We now expect to pick up your mobile phone to gain access to your critical business data and your critical systems, like your emails and more often than not, your files that are stored on your systems. People using tablets and all that sort of stuff as well. And in many cases, I'm sure, as business owners, because I know there are a few in the room, even managers would have the experience where you've worked late at night or early in the morning to get work done or catch up on things that you just haven't had time to do during the day. And look, this is something that we do quite regularly, and look, we look with a lot of doctors. Doctors, in essence, are very time-poor people because they're consulting all day, and then at night times their downtime when they can play catch-up and refer to notes and all that sort of stuff. So, we have instances where doctors need to be operating at 3 o'clock in the morning, where conventionally that 3 o'clock in the morning period would be reserved for acceptable downtime. So essentially what I'm trying to get to is the fact that downtime is no longer acceptable really in large proportions at any day or hour of the week. So as I said, it's very important to have a plan, and as you can see here, we've got 5 pillars. I won't go into that too much detail, but that's basically how we formulate a business continuity plan for any business. And that will basically involve identifying, measuring, and implementing a solution that will help you continue your business in the event of a change. The next part of the conversation is around compliance. Now, we did a blog post probably about 6 months ago, just around the end of financial year, around compliance and record-keeping requirements. So, again, this is something that's quite commonly overlooked, but it is very important for business to understand. So, as an organisation, each business has the responsibility to maintain your financial, staff, employee, and workplace health and safety records for a minimum of 5, more often than not 7 years. So, part of this conversation really comes around how are you achieving that at the moment? And most people would go, oh, I've just saved it to a file, it's archived in XYZ folder and we can refer to it whenever we need to. Look, in many cases that's probably good, but what happens in the instance where you have someone's deleted a file in your organisation and it's not realised until 2-3 years down the track, and you might need that piece of information to refer to for litigation or for financial audits and things like that. So that's a conversation that's quite commonly overlooked, and thinking, well, we're not actually record keeping for 5 to 7 years like we need to be. Medical industry is far more strict with that as far as how long you need to keep patient records. But from a standpoint, 5 to 7 years is generally the minimum requirement for each and every business. There's a couple of different ways that we can achieve this. Now, in past, what we would have recommended is literally doing an end of financial year backup. So that would involve basically taking a full copy of all of your systems and backups at June 30 and archiving that drive for the next 5 to 7 years, depending on obviously the level of requirement to retain that data. Now, obviously, as technology has evolved and reliance on technology and data has evolved a lot more as well, we need to start thinking about once every 12 months probably isn't enough because there's a big gap between the last 12-month backup and the one that we're about to do. So now we start talking about automating this process with cloud technology. So we now have abilities to set up automatic archival or archival of your files, every file and folder that's ever created in your system in a cloud instance. And it's smart enough to automatically archive them and keep them for 7 years. So it takes away the human error element and also provides you a peace of mind knowing those files are always retrievable at any given time. As I mentioned before, obviously it's also good to have a bit of an idea of where your files are in case you do face some sort of litigation, especially in the sales sort of arenas. So, what is the cost of downtime? Each and every business, well, let me get a show of hands. Who in the room has been affected by some sort of downtime in the last 12 months? So look, I'd be very surprised if, even in the last 12, 24 months, to some extent you hadn't experienced that. And that could be as far as your internet banking not working, that could be as far as not being able to log into your system to gain access to your data. So it is a reality that it does happen from time to time, and as our reliance on these systems continues to grow, we need to make sure that we can quantify what the cost is for these elements. We need to know what our recovery objectives are. And when I say recovery objectives, is what's the expectation that it will take for your system to be restored and functional in the event of a failure or an outage. Because I can guarantee if I had a conversation with each and every one of you one-on-one, I'd say to you, how long do you expect to be down before your system's back up again? And I'd expect most people to say within 1 to 2, maybe 3 hours at worst. For most businesses, that's an it's not a correct expectation of what your system is currently there to do in that sense. So more often than not, it might be 1 to 2 days. So it is something that we want to have a talk about. We obviously want to analyse your disaster recovery plan and make sure that the process that you've got in place is going to provide you with the expectation that you've got. But by also doing this, we're helping you make informed decisions on what needs to happen in the event of an outage. So what we've done is we've developed a recovery time calculator, and what this does is actually calculates how long best case scenario it would be for your system to be restored in the event of a failure, and also helps you quantify what the cost would be of that. And that's including your overheads like employee costs, overheads, all that sort of stuff. So what I want to do with you today, guys, is actually run through quickly a small scenario so we can run through and see what this would come to, basically. So, look, we've got a recovery time objective. So, look, can I have a volunteer just to give me a level of expectation? Corey, I nominate you. Can you please give me an idea of what your expectation would be in the event that your system went down? How long do you expect, worst case scenario, that you would be down for?
4 hours.
4 hours, all right. So we're going to go 4 hours. So this is the time from when the disaster or outage has occurred and you want to be back online. So following that, I might get Noel, if you can let me know, in the event that you had a failure and we have to recover, what would be an acceptable amount of data to lose? And I know the answer is 0, right? But at the same time, I want you to have to think about, for you to be able to carry on business without overly a massive amount of impact, what would you say would be the most amount of data that you could afford everyone going re-entering and lose?
I can put it in a percentage. It's really an amount of entry time.
Yeah.
Okay, if we had an incident today, then we wouldn't want anything more than today's data.
Yep, so we say 12 hours?
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll leave it at 12 hours then, alrighty? So basically, what we're saying here is we want to be up online within 4 hours and only lose at a maximum up to 12 hours worth of data. Okay, so what we're going to talk about here, look, the average size, most businesses, SMBs will talk about here as an example. We wouldn't see it unrealistic to have about 500 gigabytes worth of critical system data. So this would involve things like emails and documents and all of that sort of stuff. And how often do we currently back up systems? Okay, so I'll give you an answer for this because I'm not sure if we'll have an answer from the crowd, but more often than not, we're backing up every 12 to 24 hours. So on a worst case scenario, we'll work on 24 hours since your last backup. Okay? And how long does it take to recover out initiate your backup process or your restoration process? This is the time it takes from the incident to actually start the backup. So again, by the time you've called your IT department or your service provider or ONGC, allow for about an hour. So we're working on 20 employees at this organisation, okay? They have an average wage of $20 an hour, we'll just leave it as that for the time being. And on average, let's just say there's an overhead for each employee of about $30 an hour. So this would represent cost of loss of income, electricity, insurances, all of that sort of stuff. Yep. And basically lost income per hour. So this, depending on the business, if they're out there selling, it's different for everyone, but if it's a service-based business, let's just say they're capable of billing $100 an hour for the sake of this argument. So what we're going to do, click calculate, all that's going to do is tell us how much that downtime has cost us, as well as how long, best case, it would take to recover in the existing environment. So we're saying 2.5 hours to recover 500 gig worth of data. Now, we can also see our recovery point objective, which is how much data we want to lose, the maximum data that we lose, is not met. So in this instance, we can tell that the expectation versus reality is not balanced. And these are the times that we start having the next parts of the conversations. So we'll be sending this out for everybody to have access to, and you can run your own calculations internally, just get an idea. But obviously, when you're looking at investing in these sorts of, I guess we would call it somewhat of an insurance, you know the saving that you're going to have, or the ROI to be able to implement such a thing. So what we want to talk about is how technology is currently bridging the gap and enabling you to minimise your cost of downtime or interruption of business. Now, one of the key things that we want to do is eliminate human error. I'll get another show of hands. How many people in this room have forgotten at one point or another to change the backup drive or something within the office? Pretty well everybody in the room. Now, human error is something that we need to obviously consider. Quite closely, because it is a reality, and it's not malice or anything like that. It's just the way it is. We all get busy. So what we want to do is start looking at streamlining these processes and streamlining your restoration process and eliminate human error from the equation altogether. So by doing this, obviously reducing loss of data, all that sort of stuff. So some of the technologies that we can do is automatically do that. And we're actually going to demonstrate to you today some of the technologies available today that would enable you to minimise that gap. We work quite closely with Microsoft and with Veeam. As you can imagine, as an IT service provider, we have to align ourselves with partners that, one, we can rely on and put our trust in. Because ultimately, if we're recommending it, it comes back to us at the end of the day. So we've aligned ourselves to Microsoft and Veeam because at the end of the day, as Microsoft's Veeam's tagline says, it just works. And the reality is, yes, it does. Now, I'll go back one slide. So the thing that we need to think about here is everyone should really have in the back of mind the 3-2-1 rule. Now, the 3-2-1 rule stipulates that at any given time, you have 3 copies of your data, whether it be any type, email or file or whatever, on 2 different types of storage. So that would mean located on a server, located on a USB drive, or located on some sort of other storage. And one of those is to always be stored off-site. So that means no matter what happens at any time of day, you know there is a copy of your backup stored off-site that can be used. Now this provides a level of protection that can obviously help you in the event of something like a natural disaster. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to get Delupa from Veeam to pop up, and he's going to work with Gavin on a few little bits and pieces, but we're going to demonstrate to you basically some of this technology. And again, trying to make it as least technical as possible, but to actually show you in real world how this would work. So I'll hand over to Delupa.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, and my name is Delupa and I'm a sales engineer working for Veeam Software. I've been with Veeam for almost 3 years. based in Brisbane. Today, actually, what we're trying to show you, what we're aiming to show you, is like a real live demo, which is probably the ultimate test that you can like a soft demo. We haven't really done something like that in front of like a big audience. To be frank with you, we normally do like demos using our test lab. What today we're trying to do a real live, pretty much putting our whole system into a live kind of ultimate test. So on my left-hand side is kind of like a server where your critical systems are running. This is just to show you like it's a customer side. And the left-hand side is like a typical data center. In this case, I'm going to use ONGC data center. And first thing what we're going to do is we're going to put some, save something, do some changes to a server, save some important documents in that server, and then we're actually going to pull the plug from that server and show you how easy it is to sort of fail over to a different server which is running in a different data center. Yeah. Cool, thank you. So this is actually a Microsoft Hyper-V server. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, don't worry about that. It's just a normal Windows server where you're running one of your critical applications. First thing I'm going to do is
The long story short, while he's getting set up for that, I challenged the team that I wanted to show some impact and not just have death by PowerPoint, and I know it's a big part. So we will literally be pulling the cable out of this in a minute to prove it works. So I hope it does, otherwise there's egg on our face. So that's the plan.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so we got a kind of a document. Yeah. I'm from Sri Lanka, and just to keep Gav happy, I had to target it. So, yeah. Well, can I have a volunteer who can come up to the stage and can type something on this document or the notepad, and we can save that, and then we can actually shut down this server and show you how you can really start the same server, same application from a different server. Can I please have a volunteer?
Vicky Gay, you're up.
Go on, Vicky.
Oh, great, thanks.
Just ask him if he won the World Cup in cricket.
Type anything.
Ask him if he won the World Cup cricket. You don't answer that, mate.
It's alright.
There you go.
Great, thank you. Thanks so much. So, yeah, so imagine this is one of your most critical file or document that you really need that. Can't lose that. So what I'm going to do is
Don't forget to save it.
yeah, I'm going to save that. So it's there. So I'm going to actually run a replication job from this server to the data center on my right-hand side. It will take probably like 2 to 3 minutes. While I'm doing the replication job, I'm going to invite Gavin Carley to talk about the ONGC and Veeam partnership. And what do you get?
And we did win the cricket, in case anyone didn't know. So I'm Gavin Kiley, I'm the Partner Business Manager for Veeam, based here in Brisbane as well. So thanks to Steve and Damo and everybody else for letting us be part of this today. And mate, those tacos, they're pretty good, so got to get amongst those again as well. So I'm responsible for our channel partners as set across Queensland and Northern Territory. We're a 100% channel-focused organisation in that we have no services capability or delivery mechanisms. So we look for really strong, competent and confident partners to do that. And ONGC are absolute legends and geniuses when it comes to that. One of the great things that these guys do, and it's pretty evident in the messaging and detail that you're seeing here today, is that it's not just about technology, right? It's about that business messaging and what the relevance and what that means to organisations of all sizes. I'll talk a little bit later about an example, a specific example of a customer in Brisbane. But you know, just to expand on that a little bit more. So what we found, and the guys at Forrester in particular, and they conducted a survey worldwide of organisations across enterprise through to SME, and there's this massive gap of what organisations have now when it comes to backup and what they're looking for from an availability perspective. There's obviously there's tangible and intangible costs associated from an IT perspective, but we talk about the cost of downtime and what that means to organisations and people sitting around idle, not having access to information, applications and data as well too. Like about chasing Pokemon, instead of being productive and making informed business decisions. So as I said, so we really look for our partners to really deliver that and to understand our messaging. Obviously from a Microsoft Alliance perspective, we're a very, very large Microsoft Alliance partner as well there as well. So some of you guys may be using HPE, maybe using some EMC, so we have direct integration with those guys as well too. But as I said, it's all about building out the stuff with the ONGC guys as well. So how are we going, mate? All good?
All good.
I really hate live demos because there's always that risk, but do you want me to do it or do you want someone to do it?
Yeah, well, you want someone like a customer or someone else to.
Does someone come and unplug the power cable? Vicky, you can do it.
So what you will notice is like we have used RTP to connect into that server. So what you will see is we'll lose the go for it. So you will notice that we will lose the connection to this server within a couple of seconds. So you can see we lost connection to the server. Your employees can't really access the applications. So that's the time you actually call the IT guys or whoever the service provider that you're offering, hey, I'm in big trouble, can you recover or can you do a failover? So I'm going to show you how quickly it is to recover the same server with all your data without losing a single bit of data from a different server. So I'm going to quickly do a failover, what we call it like a quick failover using Veeam. I'll initiate the failover. So it will take a few minutes, so probably like less than 1 minute to restart the same server from a different server. It's actually the service here.
So effectively what we've done is we've just replicated your environment, and we could also have this set up as your branch office or director's house, or we can even provide that service to you as well in our ONGC's data center. So basically giving you that flexibility to choose how you want to do it. And that's how, when we have these discussions, we're the most cost-effective way to achieve these results.
Right, so we're almost done. So we just need to do the final.
So you see now on this screen, we can see you've dropped out, and a lot of you in the room will use Terminal Server. I think the majority of people in the room will use them to one extent or another. So you've seen the screen before, more often than not, I'm sure. So what we're saying is we've now done that replication, and it's back on.
Yeah.
So that worked, which is good. Normally it doesn't work in live demos, but I think so. I think we've done it right.
So we're going to go like one step beyond. I'm going to log into the server and show you that we got all the changes that we have made to the notepad.
So conventionally, something like this would take hours, if not days, to achieve the same result that we've done now. So, and this is using, again, the equipment that we're using isn't overly fancy. It's providing this, in more cases than not, with equipment that you may already have. So I can see here, we're now running. You can see this server is completely off, no smoke and mirrors. This server is completely off, which is what we're running on before. And now we've got the data with nil data loss located on the replication server to the side. Well done.
Thank you.
And guys, that's the first one we've done that demo. So
yeah, we like to push these guys to the limit.
yeah, so
None of these recorded demos, it's all live here. We saw it first. Alrighty, just go to mouse, get our back up here. Cool. Thank you, sir. So thanks to Luca for that that demo. We've been working, and believe me, we've tested that about 20 times, and I don't think it's failed once yet. We were more concerned about pulling the power out of this and this never turning back on again, because then we couldn't do the demo in real life. So what I want to do is invite Dennis up, who's one of our senior engineers, and he's going to have a chat to you about a data availability assessment, which, as a part of today's event, Gav mentioned earlier, one of the guys mentioned earlier about Veeam 1. Basically what we're saying to you is we are offering this service to you free of charge to give you an idea of where you're at currently and to help you plan for the next stage. So I'll welcome up Dennis, and he'll run through a few things here.
Thank you guys. Good afternoon all. My name is Dennis. I work with ONGC Systems and have for about 9 years now. So we've seen a lot today about the importance of backup, the importance of knowing how long you're going to be down for in the case of an outage, and really the importance of those recovery time objectives. The main thing I want to talk about today is the data assessment and the Veeam 1 tool and what it can offer your business effectively. So what we're offering today, everyone should have something like this in their bags. What we're offering today is basically a copy of Veeam 1 free for use. And what Veeam 1 is it provides a data availability assessment. What we do is we basically come out and install this tool on your infrastructure and on your systems, and we let it run for roughly 2 weeks. The reason we do it for 2 weeks is to try and actually gather what you guys do in a day-to-day scenario within the business across a good period of time. And what this will do for us is it allows a personalised report that we can then generate and give over to you, where we can review all the options. It gives us the insights, it gives you really the visibility into the environment, maybe answering a few questions that you didn't already know. Really it comes down to the couple of stages that runs. First we identify everything within your environment, and then we analyse basically how your backups are running. But it's really more than just about backups, and it's more than just about replication. What we look at with this tool is the performance of your systems. We look at how your resources are being utilised, and we try to make sure that there's no major bottlenecks within your system, that the resources are utilised to their full, and that you're not sort of stretching hardware out or not. We look at the efficiencies of your systems, how are your virtual machines and things like that running, and whether we can consolidate systems to actually bring costs down for you as well. But the main thing, that's really in addition to the backups. The main thing we're looking at is the backups and the replication. And what we're looking at there is how long do you guys keep backups, how much data are we backing up, and what is that retention period? Can we restore from 1, 2 or 3 months ago? Or can we restore from multiple years ago? What is that growth of the data? That's why we're doing it over those 2-week period. We look at every day how much data is being added in. And really, we're coming back to that retention time and that compliance that Steve spoke about. Can we get that 7 years compliance with what you've got already? Or do we have to utilise, a service in the cloud with Microsoft Azure and the help of Veeam? Most importantly though, what this is going to give you out of this report is the recovery time objectives. So you're going to know exactly how long the system's going to be down for. Get that expectation set so that in a time of an outage, what to expect there. We can then look at the actual efficiencies currently in place with your backups and where that can be improved. We come back then with with the recommendations and where possible offer the improvements utilising what you've got, or utilising something in the cloud or a remote office or something like that. So really it gets us the report that the tool will run. We then personalise it, take a lot of the jargon out, make it that it's readable and understandable by everyone. And then really then give it to you to make an informed decision on what the backups are doing, how long we need them for, and what we should be adding to it. The beauty of this tool is once it's on there, it can effectively continue running, and we recommend that really every 6 to 12 months we review this tool. As you've probably heard Steve and a few of the other guys mention today, the businesses change over time. what you guys were doing 6 months ago to 12 months later is most likely going to be different, and there might be a pretty major change in the data and the amount of information, the amount of staff that you have saving there. So really, we look at this as a tool that can be run over those 12-month period, and really, ensure that you can meet the steps in place to retain that data moving forward. So with that, at the end, if anyone wants to come and see us or talk to me about that, by all means, and I can answer a few more questions. But for the moment, though, I believe we're going to have a Q&A session, so I'm going to hand back over to Steve, and he'll run us through that.
Thank you, Dennis. Alrighty, so look, part of today, again, trying to keep it relevant to everybody, we were very keen on giving you some real world examples, i.e. doing the demo, but we're also bringing up one of our customers who's firsthand had to go through, logistics going through the air. Alright, so a customer that's actually gone through this in the past and how that's benefited them. So I'd like to welcome Jason from Condev to the stage. Thank you for joining us. And look, I'm going to sit down as well, and the guy's going to ask me a few questions, so I think Gavin's going to mediate this one.
So this should be a little bit more exciting than a presidential debate, I hope. So it's all very, very good. Just to reinforce about the availability assessment, and reinforce what I said before about the ONGC guys, they absolutely get it. And it's great to work with partners like these guys. Very transparent, understand customers' businesses, so I really encourage you guys to have a look at that and utilise that moving forward. So I said we'll have a bit of a broad conversation. I'll remember to try and keep the microphone close to me. As I said to the guys before, I have a phobia about lapel mics after watching The Naked Gun, so I really need to remember to keep this close. So Jace, thanks for coming. Nice to meet you earlier before. Can you tell us a little bit about Condev, please?
Condev, we're a medium or mid-tier construction company. We turn over about $175 million worth of work a year. And we're running a couple of offices. We've got our head office down in the Gold Coast and one up in Brisbane. And we run about between 20 and 25 on average construction sites all around southeast Queensland.
And the workloads differ between the sites?
Yes, yep. Some are large construction sites, some are quite small, but the connectivity is pretty much all keeps about the same.
Okay. Unfortunately, as a Brisbane-based person, things do happen, but you guys had a challenge in Brisbane.
Yeah, we had a power outage, and our Brisbane server went down. It didn't come back up online, which in effect pretty much will stop about 10 of our construction sites from being able to access the information.
So how long were you guys out for?
From the time that it went down, when it was realised and realised that it wasn't coming back up, we were actually down for about 10-15 minutes.
If you had to have the new implementation of the strategy in place, how long would it have taken you to get back up if you didn't have the process in place?
Because what we did is we actually, ONGC, with our action plan, we cut over, we've got a private link between our Brisbane office and our Gold Coast office. They were able then to change the Brisbane server to actually come back onto our Gold Coast server, and everyone was be able to connect onto from there. If that didn't happen, we would have had to wait for a loan server. ONGC, they provided us with a loan server. It would have taken 2, maybe 3 days to get fully up and going and connected on. If we had to buy a new server, it could be a week, 2 weeks, depending on availability.
So it's a bit of a loaded question, but an obvious one, but you feel the investment was definitely worth it?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. We did a cost of time analysis on our construction sites, and it works out to, on average, about $7,500 a day just to run a construction site. So if we're out for a week, we're about $45,000 in the hole just on one construction site. So if you put that over 10 construction sites, it adds up very quickly.
Mate, so what did you guys do?
Well, I'll still have mine. Look, I guess part of the technology, and look, we've been dealing with Condev now for a number of years, and I think our relationship's grown pretty strongly based on having that maturity together. and really understanding the needs of what they have. As Jason said, you know, having an hour's worth of downtime or a day's worth of downtime, it's just not acceptable. So I think we ended up, when we had the last conversation about implementing this strategy, it was very much about what can we do to bridge that gap, to see effectively what we're talking about today. But obviously, essentially what we've done is exactly what we've demonstrated to you today. They have a site located on the Gold Coast and they have a site located in Brisbane, and we have the replication like we showed you today running pretty well every 15 minutes. I think at the stage it was running, so there was literally like 5 minutes of, well, it was 6 o'clock in the morning when it happened, so by the time it was all said and done there was nil data loss in that instance. So yeah, it's just a matter of working with what Condev had and making sure that we can get the most out of it.
So I said before that, you know, we deal across customer segments, right, of all sizes, right, and from SMB through to large enterprise. So we had an instance of a Congo or a sort of pseudo-government, pseudo-private enterprise organisation in Brisbane, and they were hit by crypto lock, and they were using, yes, a competing product, and so these guys were down for literally days, right? And you think about not just from the IT perspective of the cost of, as I said, people sitting around idly, people turning up to work, literally sitting at their desks, not being productive, right? Not having access to that information, application, and data, right? And then the flow-on effect to, you know, I was about to say what utility this was, but to people who needed to access that information, right? So to consumers, whatever as well too. So it had a really, really, really big flow-on effect. We can't mention it for obvious reasons, but we do. I have a lot of examples around that as well too. Since implementing a Veeam solution, they now have a recovery time point objective of under 15 minutes for their critical applications and data. So just keep that in the back of your mind, as I said, when you're talking to the guys from ONGC as well too.
A big thing with this as well, and I think it's quite important, is we don't want this to be about ONGC. It's not about ONGC, it's not about Veeam, it's about you guys and being able to deliver to your customers. You know, one of the biggest things that comes into it is if you're not able to operate, your customers are going to lose confidence in your ability to meet their needs. That's the reality. And you know, too many outages and things like that, it really starts to affect the business. So you know, as I said, the conversation today is about how technology can help you. Whether it's ONGC that does it or your internal IT department or whatever, that's fine. It's more about providing that information to you guys to be able to, again, make those informed decisions and actually have an understanding of what we're talking about here. Because I know in many cases these conversations will come up and it will just be geek speak and very hard to understand. So yeah, it's whilst we give you these examples that might be Veeam or Microsoft specific, it's because they're the ones that we deal with on a day-to-day basis and have a lot of experience with. So yeah.
Does anybody have any questions, or if you're not comfortable, you talk to us afterwards? Does anybody have anything they want to address, either of Delupa or us?
Yes.
Yeah, Steve. The data gets transferred over. Does the host server also have the same applications?
Absolutely. So effectively what we're doing is replicating the system in its entirety from one location to another. So if, say for instance, site A blows up and all your data's there, it will be available to site B. And then you'll be able to, you know, whether or not we can either flick you so you can work back from that original site, or you can work from home, wherever you need to be at that time. Yep.
So does that include like any server configuration changes and things like that?
Absolutely. So it'll come down to obviously how often we're doing backups. You know, you can actually go to the extent where it does it in real time. So it's literally replicating live as changes are made. So as each keystroke is done, it's transferring to the new server. Obviously there's some implications and technology requirements to enable that, but again, that's getting easier and easier as time goes by, and you know, the notorious NBN, when that effectively comes out, will provide us hopefully some better things there, but you know, don't hold your breath.
Well, actually, Stephen showed me the other night at a small business tech event that I went to, said that they're fast tracking it.
Yeah.
All the Gold Coast because of the names.
All I can say is fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Yes?
So, the replication server is obviously not in your office, it's somewhere else. So
Yeah, absolutely.
where else would it be if this had one?
Well, look, there's a couple of ways you can do it, and I will stand up for this actually. But yeah, basically you can do it in a couple of ways. So you can have it in the same premises. So if you want to have, and more often than not, many customers have multiple pieces of hardware. So what we would do is actually set them up to replicate to each other internally first, and then you might set them to replicate to an offsite location once a day. So obviously, if we have a big incident, we're covered by having the offsite, but if we have a small incident and it's only a single piece of hardware failure, we can fail over to the second piece of hardware that you've got in the office. So that's, it really, again, it comes down to the needs of that business and the expectations that you have in that environment as well. So it's very much case by case, but you can literally, as I said, go from a complete replication offsite in real time all the way through to once a day, once every 2 days if you wanted to go down that path.
Can I just add to that? So what we really showed you today is actually how to failover this like another server, but the next question is how I'm going to get those data back to my on-prem. Like once you fix the issues, I'm going to get back all those data changes that's happened during failover. So we have a failback features as well, so we didn't show that. But once you fix the issues in your on-prem server, you can get all your data back to your server. So that's all built into the technology solution. And again, because of the bandwidth limitation, probably the biggest question you ask, okay, if I have to transfer everything every 15 minutes, no, it's all incremental. We capture the changes and we only send the changes, depends on your requirement. It could be 15 minutes, it could be half an hour, it could be 1 hour, 6 hours, depends on the requirement.
Yeah, correct.
Steve, would this be relevant if you're operating entirely in the cloud? So if you're using a cloud email?
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's becoming more and more relevant for cloud because every business, or I wouldn't say every business, but look, I'd say at least half the businesses that we come across now have their foot in the cloud pond, so to speak. And the conversation around continuity in the cloud is very, when I say very different, it's different from a technical perspective, but at the end of the day, the result is the same. So cloud has a lot of contingencies in place that automate a lot of this failover and redundancy and things like that. It's just you need to make sure that they've been turned on. So look, to answer your question, yes, it's different, but essentially the technologies that we use are going to be the same. So Veeam does a lot with Microsoft and their cloud products, and and Microsoft do a lot themselves as well.
Well, that sort of answers the question, yes, Steve.
Yep.
If site A and site B, site B being the replicating site, are on, for example, the same power grid, and they both suffer a major catastrophe,
Yep.
does that mean that the data's lost, or was it distorted?
Yeah, well, look, it comes down to what the disaster is, but if we're saying that both locations go off the same power, then effectively that would affect both sites, so you'd be offline. So when we talk about this, we obviously want to make sure that there's significant distance between the two sites by, at least suburbs. So for instance, we have another customer based in Brisbane that was affected by the Brisbane floods, okay? And obviously at the time, Brisbane floods, there was no power in the whole city centre at all whatsoever. But look, this was about 5 years ago. So, this technology has really only kicked off in the last couple of years. And at that stage, they were replicating to us, and within a day, they were back online and working. So we need to make sure that there's obviously some boundaries between the two locations in that instance, but that's part of the assessment that we do when we talk about, how do you want to achieve this always-on business. Cool. Any other questions?
I was just going to ask, you're talking about being incrementally backed up.
Yep.
So, how does that affect database systems that might be complex, for example, where incremental backups really
That's a Delupa question.
Sure. Yeah, so the applications like SQL Server, maybe Exchange, we need to talk to the application and tell we're going to actually take application consistent backup. We have smart built into the solution. We actually go to the application and tell we're going to take a backup. So applications know they put everything back to the disk, and every transaction you put into your SQL Server or whatever, your application will be reflected in your, replicated into the second server.
So is that like through an RDBMS or something like that manages that?
So what we do is we actually use the VSS, so we actually talking to the application VSS providers and put everything back to the disk. And if you want to, we can talk this, if you want more information, I'm happy to talk. But we can, if it's SQL, we can look at multiple ways. We can just look at the log backups, where you can have at least what Microsoft is recommending, do the log backups every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, so we have all these capabilities. So this is the replication, that's one side of the solution, but also Veeam can do backup as well. So the replication is how quickly can I recover? Replication is you're pretty much replicating your whole VM to a different data center if something goes wrong, you can fail over the second data center. The backup is different. The backups you use to recover something, a file, a folder, an application item. So those are like two options. So
right, but what I was talking about is like with a financial information system where recovering part of it is not, relevant, because if you've got one part not the other part, you can't make it function. That would be something.
yeah, so kind of like a multi-tiered application, front end, back end, like you have. Is that what you mean? Like a multiple?
Well, we might take this offline, I think, because it's a bit more of a specialised thing. Yeah, if you want to maybe catch up afterwards, that'd be good. We'll go for it. Fantastic. Yes, John.
From the user's point of view, who's sitting at the PC, is there any, will they notice that it's slowing down because it's doing its backup?
Look, they won't notice the replication happens seamlessly in the back end. So the way that we configure that is basically to...
So there will be no notice whatsoever?
The way that we would set it up to do so, yeah, absolutely. So the part of this and the evaluation of this is to make sure that there's no impact to business by implementing the strategy as well. But, to go to the next level with this as well, obviously, we might be failing over to equipment at a director's house that might be half the specification of the live equipment. And in that instance, yeah, that would be slightly slower, but again, you're still functioning.
Well,
Okay.
just in day-to-day operations,
Yep.
there'd be no impact,
Basically, no. No, absolutely. We couldn't put a solution in if it was going to cause impact to the business.
All right, now that bit of hardware there, is that proprietary to...
No, not at all. So the Veeam is the software.
The software, okay.
Yeah,
So that bit of hardware then, what sort of life expectancy, because you'd have to build something in to think, would they have to replace that in 4 years, 5 years, or what would you do?
This is another conversation. So the question was, what's the life expectancy of the equipment, essentially? And it's an interesting conversation, because if you asked me 5 years ago, I'd be saying we'd be on a 3-year rotating replacement.
Right, okay.
Because of cloud, we have a different approach with it now. We want to get the most life out of the equipment that you've got, because we don't want you to invest thousands of dollars in new equipment if in 6 months, 12 months time, you're going to be moving to a cloud, because it's dead money, ultimately. So we really try to extend the lifetime of that equipment, and the reality is, as time goes on, the requirement for that equipment, or the load on that equipment, is going to get less and less as you move to the cloud, which means that the equipment that you've got now will be sustainable for much longer as well. Okay, so by putting in solutions like this, it actually gives you an insurance policy. If your equipment fails, you can still operate with older or aging equipment. So this is sort of like an alternative to having to replace everything every 3 years, like we would say. Because if a server's out of warranty 3-5 years ago, it'd be an absolute nightmare and very expensive to get you back online. Cool. All right, guys, we're gonna have to wrap it up there, I think. Yeah, we're still working, so that's good. Well, thanks for coming along, guys. I hope today was valuable for you. As the guy said, we'll be around for a little while just to have a bit of a chat and answer any further questions. But yeah, thanks for coming along. And I'll pass on to Damo quickly.
We've got some lucky doors. And thank you to Jason for coming up. Appreciate that. Have you got lucky door thing somewhere allegedly? Thank you very much. I'm going to ask for just 30 seconds more patience. As I said, we're trying to do a whole lot of digital stuff these days to keep excited. So I want to get a quick selfie with the crowd. So, ready? 3, 2, 1. Hands up. Beanbags or something exciting. 3, 2, 1. Go. Thanks a lot, guys. And if anything, ask for any help. Hang around. We'll be here. And if not, thank you very much for giving up your lunch hour. Have a great day.